Welcome back to the Hodge-Cast podcast. Conquering your Everest. It's a phrase that we all use when we want to achieve something or we complete a challenge. Today's guest has actually conquered Everest and then some, as he holds the record for the longest climb of Mount Everest. It's Mitch Hutchcraft. Welcome to the show.
Just for having me, mate. It's good to be here.
No, it's great. I was saying to you off camera as well, because I've been following your YouTube in preparation for this. I've watched it twice now, that series.
Way.
So, yeah,
That's amazing.
It's the rugged, even though you're still quite rugged, but not as rugged as you are on YouTube.
About the right level of rugged. Yeah, I'd like to be crazy, but it's I've been told by my girlfriend it's not a good. She's not like quite that bad. So yeah, no, it's good to be back in the realms of the living a little bit. Yeah.
So I mean, we ask this question to all our guests. It's kind of like the crux of the show. And I'm really interested how you're going to answer this, given what you've accomplished.
Yeah, man.
And that is, what does challenge mean? So what does challenge mean to Mitch Hutchcraft?
It literally just means, for me, just pushing yourself out of my comfort zone, pushing me out of my comfort zone, and it's kind of, that makes me think of one of the most important messages that I try so badly to get out in my talks, and that is proportionality. So all challenge means to me is pushing yourself a little bit, whether it's physically, emotionally, getting uncomfortable, just taking that first little step, no matter what it is. Challenge means just taking one step out the comfort zone. That's what challenge is. It's not got to be massive. It's not got to be tiny. All it is just doing that little bit, because that one little step is how you grow. The only way you grow is to challenge yourself. So challenge is proportionate, but that's what it means to me. Challenge is just a word which is proportionate, but it means everything.
Do you know what? It's interesting that, because we have some people on the show who really unpack that and sort of maybe over-articulate, and yet you're someone who's completed the challenge you've done. I know you've done other things as well. You've kept it quite simple there, so that's interesting. It's a testament to yourself.
On there. I thought
that was short by comparison to some people.
No, you don't want to overwhelm people. I think it's just simple. You do you. Everyone's got their own challenge, and very simple. Especially, it's so important to young people. Like your Everest is your Everest, and it cannot be compared to someone else's. Never compare yourself to anyone else. Your challenge could be as simple as literally getting out of bed for the first time or getting out of bed after you've had a really tough week or you've lost someone, or that's your Everest. That's your challenge. It's as simple as that. For me, it was just this was my big challenge, just because it was a way of combining all these childhood fantasies into one dream, like the ultimate adventure of all time.
I can't wait to unpack this with you. Just for the listeners who obviously, those who know you know this anyway, but for anyone who doesn't know you, maybe they've seen the thumbnail or they watched the show, just tell us briefly what this challenge was that you did from A to B.
Okay, breakdown. So 15th of September last year, start day one. It was 237 days, so just under 240 days. Day one was swimming across the English Channel on the 15th of September. And then after that, I then cycled 11,920 kilometres across 18 countries, across the world to India, to the ocean, to West Bengal. And then I ditched the bike, not ditched it. Then I swapped from bike to foot and ran 900k to Kathmandu in Nepal, and then hiked 360k to Everest itself, and then climbed it in one non-stop 8-month mission. Lost 18 kilos, 19 countries in total, 13,157k of just human power from England to the top of the world.
I mean, obviously that is insane that you've outlined that, and so fluently as well. What's your background, Mitch? Because would it be fair in saying, because we've had some people on the show and they're professional athletes,
That's definitely not me,
I don't want to undermine you by asking that. I'll let you say what your background is.
Definitely not professional athlete, and it kind of comes back to what we were talking about before. Like you have not got to be a super athlete or a gifted athlete to achieve this impossible. What people think is impossible, it's just all in your head. It's just pure belief. You're the only person that knows the definition of that word, and that is the main message for everything. But I'm literally just a kid from a farm near Cambridgeshire in the middle of nowhere. I grew up just obsessed with the outdoors, loving life, and could never keep me indoors. ADHD is hell, and rage and ADHD, really bad kid, and I was just obsessed with adventure from a young age. That's my background. But then always loved travelling and just the idea of adventure. It all started when I was literally 6 years old, and my nan gave me a book called The Turquoise Mountain by Brian Blessed. And
I've
actually
read it.
tried it a
Great
couple
book.
of times. Amazing. And literally 6 years old. That came out in 1997. So I was 6. And I remember it took me about 6 months to read. But I was like, from that moment on, it was like, that's it. That's the goal.
So you was dialed
I
in
told
from
Nan
that.
at 6 that I'm going to
Okay,
climb
wow.
Everest. She's laughed. It was great. I never thought I'd climb Everest from England. Don't get me wrong. But
Yeah.
but it all progressed from there. So that's kind of the background. And then, but then lots of stuff happened. My dad passed away, obviously, which was like the main catalyst of my entire life now. And the talks is all about channeling grief and adversity into raw power, all that kind of stuff. So that's my background, and the military as well. So that's the reason my dad passing away was the reason why I just said, bugger it, I'm gonna apply for the Marines. And next thing you know, I spent nearly 6 years learning these amazing skills, which again just all build you into something more. So it was amazing. So that's kind of the rough background.
Yeah, no, because it's interesting as you was talking there, because what I often find, particularly when it comes to endurance endeavours, I'm not speaking on behalf of myself here, people who I know, is two things that generally you find people excelling when it comes to endurance. One is someone who's gone through turmoil, grief, because they use that as fuel, which I suspect you're alluding to. And also, I dip my toe in the whole high rock sport, which is, you've got to be fit to be really good at that. And quite a lot of people with ADHD really excel at that.
Absolutely.
And you've obviously got two of those traits there, haven't you, that you're able to use as fuel. So that's really interesting. You mentioned your time in the military. So what was it what did you serve as, and how did that progress?
just 5.5 years in the Royal Marines. So I was a general kind of soldier, and then heavy weapons specialist for a couple of years, based in Scotland. So it was just kind of amazing time, tough training, and it's amazing. It just really helps forge that mindset to just get you one step further. To just know that pain is temporary, and that's the kind of thing you learn in there, which helps, which kind of defines you a bit more than if you haven't been in the military. Is you're more comfortable being uncomfortable, and which is definitely a massive plus. If you can get through that, and like you said, kind of, I'm just lucky I can combine two of these things. To have an extreme, and this Olympic athlete, gold medalist. These are just someone who's lucky. That's just a person who's lucky enough to have all like 3 or 4 factors combined. They're lucky enough to be born with the natural genetic gifts, as well as the kind of upbringing and the background to be able to fund that, as well as the mental discipline and maybe the adversity to channel it and to fuel it. It's all these combinations into one. But you don't need all of them to do amazing things. It's as long as you've got a combination, and because it's 99% in your head. That is it. And but the Marines was the first kind of, one of the first real kind of tests that just takes you beyond your body, and where you have to rely on your mind, otherwise you just get broken down.
So the Marines definitely laid the foundations for Project
Yeah,
Limitless for you as the individual.
I think the foundations were laid when I was younger. Kind of the plan was, I guess, the plan was probably laid, but the foundations that actually made it realistic was definitely in that time in the Marines. Not just like physically, but probably, as I said, without that, who knows whether I would have been able to push myself beyond that. You know what I mean?
The type, because obviously you feel like you build a report, even though up until today you didn't have a clue who I was, I guess. But you feel like
briefly,
watching.
yeah, I mean,
briefly, yeah,
with
text.
Great
But you feel like when you're watching a series, because you document it, you feel like you've built a rapport with that person, even though you don't know them. And I think going back to, I think even if you, obviously the Marines will have helped lay those foundations. I think you'd have done it regardless because of the character you are.
Yeah, a lot of people ask that, like, is that the reason why you have the mindset? 100%. It's one of the main reasons it is what it is now. But to be able to get through these things, to be able to make it through the training in the Marines, you have to already have that kind of mindset. You already have to have inside of you, already have to have that type of mind and that mindset to believe it. But it takes it to another level when you join any part of the military or any discipline, kind of service or whatever you do. It just helps to really build on it, and sets that real baseline for pushing yourself beyond what you thought was possible.
Yeah. Some of the most interesting people we have on the show have come from a military background, and it echoes the ethos you've just described there. So, Mitch, you had this childhood fantasy or dream, let's say, at 6 years of age. Talk to me how you got, obviously I know the passing of your father, but how you decided, the execution, and then obviously what led into doing a triathlon to get to Everest.
It's just a series of mental events. So I left in 2021 in the Marines, just midway through COVID, and it was like the most stupid time I could have left. Arguably the most stable job in the world, because no matter what happens, you're getting stable wage. But life's too short. I just wasn't happy, and not because of that, just because of the times that it wasn't much going on, and all these big crazy itches for adventure were in the back of my head. So I was like, right, no, we need to go. And then by pure chance, only because I'd been in the Marines, I ended up lucky enough to end up rowing across the Atlantic Ocean with 3 guys, completely unsupported. And that's where it first started, to meet these guys in Gran Canaria, and then row for 3,000 miles to Barbados was where it all began. That's where I had the idea pop into my head. Everest, since I was 6, has been the cornerstone. That's why when I was 16, that's why I flew to Africa on my own to climb Kilimanjaro, because, that was, even back then, I knew that was the foundation. That was like the first great step, one tiny step, one tiny dream at a time. I knew that was the first step towards this greatness for me. So that was what I'd done it. But it really started, when I left the Marines, about 2 weeks across, about halfway, probably about 3 weeks rowing across the Atlantic. I just turned around to my mate and said, you know what if I go from England to the top of Everest? And I just remember he turned around to me and he was like, what? What do you mean?
How's that even possible?
Because another dream of mine it's crossed my mind a few times, people I know have done it, was swimming the Channel. And that was like such another epic challenge that got me, there's a reason why 5 times more people though have summited Everest and swam the Channel. It is nails. Yeah. So that obviously appealed to me as well. I was like, yeah, that would be amazing. I just remember having this light bulb moment, literally I was rowing and just boom, it just hit me and I was like, oh, so if I just link the middle bit together, we can make this like a triathlon in like one of the craziest adventures that's ever been attempted. So I just remember thinking, all right, and then let's just swim the Channel, then I can cycle across the planet to like India, because my dream was always to go, even when I was a kid, like as early as like 6 to 10 when I first had this dream, Everest from sea level. So going from Everest from 0 to the top of the world was always kind of in my head, is that's how I wanted to do it. I don't know why, but just the magic of it, to have a journey that wasn't just being flown in and starting it already up a third of the way up, So I was like, that's it. So I just had this light bulb moment. All right, then let's swim the Channel, let's cycle across the planet, and then we'll run and hike from the ocean, from the sea level to Everest, and then we'll climb it to the top. And it was born. It was literally born. And the more I was thinking about it for the rest of the month, it was another 4 weeks before we finished this row. The more I just kept on thinking of the little steps and how we could do it. And I'm not massively organised person, but I knew, it's going to be possible, because I worked out the timeline of right, so it's a race against the clock essentially, because once you have to arrive at Everest in time for the climbing season, because it's only open for 3 weeks in that time in May to climb it. So I was like, okay, so but you can only swim the Channel between June, July, August and September. All right, so if I swim the Channel, that gives me X amount of time. For example, that gives me 6 months to arrive at the pool. So I worked it out even roughly in my head. Okay, that means I have to do this many miles a day, loosely. You know what I mean? I was like, it could be possible, and that's where it was set. The dream was then set, and even when I thought about the little details, that means by the time I get to like the Middle East or wherever, it's going to be December, not summer, unbearably hot. So it kind of like, it's almost as if in my head I was like, this is meant to happen. I'm meant to do this. Yeah. This is like my life. And I got back, and literally as soon as I got back, I was like, right, now it's obviously like 4 years before it actually happened. 4 years. I'm going to need to knuckle down now. Like I need to just think about how am I going to do it. So I just broke it down one little step at a time. So first things first, swimming. So I knew I'd have to work my ass off swimming. So I started doing that. Cycling. I'd never cycled more than 50 miles in a day before. So I bought a bike, and then I literally this was only about a few months after getting back from the Atlantic and stuff. I then took my bike to Croatia and cycled 700k across the entire coastline of Croatia from top to bottom. And then 2 weeks after that, I then flew it to Florida and cycled across the United States. So from the Atlantic Ocean to the Pacific Ocean, just under 5,000k. Like 4 or 5 days on, just 1 day to stretch and repeat. So it took 6 weeks to get across the United States. And that was that tick kind of in the box for me, right? I know roughly how many kilometers, how many miles I can do a day without killing myself. So next thing was a mountain. I've done a few, but never done a major a major like expedition to train for Everest, you have to do a big mountain, you know. So I ended up just kind of going for a very hard one that a lot of people do Everest in training for. So I ended up climbing Abu Dablam, which is a beautiful 7,000 meter technical peak, kind of right next to Everest. Absolutely stunning, but tough, but really tough. So I got that tick in the box. That was the year after. So that was 2021. I rode the Atlantic, and this is now 2023. So then, so these stages kind of kept on going. After that climb, I was kind of nearly in a position where I was like, right, okay, I can nearly kind of tell my friends that or people, you know, that I'm actually going to do it, you know what I mean? But there was a little kind of, you know, worry about, I've got no money. It's going to cost about 200 grand, probably. Literally haven't got a penny. I lost my dad as a teenager. I look after my mum. Literally, like, how the hell, I'm in the, obviously just left the military in a job that's standard, you know, like not that great pay. It was just mad. So I continued working for a while, doing CP and like bodyguarding, you know, but I just quit. So that was, I announced I was going to do it and then quit work 6 months before we get starting it with not a bloody clue how like it was going to happen. So yeah, so the last and the toughest part of the challenge, not just training every day for the swim, but was just making thousands of calls like every week, you know, going to every event I can think of. Managed to get just a tiny bit of what money that was needed just to get started, you know. And it was crazy because when I first swam the channel, I didn't even know if I had the money to even make it out of Europe, let alone make it to Everest 6 months later, let alone to climb Everest. So it was all very much like my head was just pounding, and it was the craziest thing in the world just to try and block everything. I had to use all the skills from the Marines, the Atlantic, everything I'd done just to block out that negative of like, it won't happen, and just believe, just simply believe. And yeah, just somehow we've done it, and we're sat here now.
Yeah, so it's testament to your mindset, that, Mitch, because I mean, by no means am I making a comparison here, but the only thing I've done is 10 back-to-back marathons, and the reason I'm mentioning that is the logistics behind that was a nightmare, and 8 of them, were local to me, and then the other 2 were down, so I'm Liverpool ways, and the other 2 were, one was the London Marathon and one was around London.
Wow.
And I just think the logistics of that I found, because that was always playing in my head, what if the water support's not there? What if X, Y, Z? What if I don't get the fundraising for this? Yeah. And but when that was 10 days, you're doing this for 8 months, and like you've just mentioned at the very start, not got a clue whether you're even going to get to Everest on a financial grounds.
It was scary. Yeah, it was scary, but that's tough. I never want to do 10 marathons in a row. That'd be horrible. I hate running. I hate running with a passion.
That's what I was going to ask you, because the running elements. So we've established that, you know, you're quite unhinged in a sense. You'll just have a go at anything.
Yes, yeah,
but,
for sure.
You know, you're rowing and then you're contemplating whilst rowing, cycling, swimming, running, climbing. Yeah. But what's the what was the thought process? I know it's you wanted to go with a triathlon, I'm guessing. The theme.
I mean, it's not even technically a triathlon. It's a 5 sport expedition: swim, cycle, run, trek, and climb. So it's like kind of like but it was just kind of labelled as that because people know what that means, you know. And it is a run, cycle, it is a swim, cycle, run essentially. Yeah. But then a climb, you know. So it's that's just what we went for. But I hate cycling. I hate running. I'm so bad at running, honestly. I did like swimming before,
I think this is what makes it all the more incredible, though.
Life. But yeah, I mean, it's the adventure. It's how I was doing it, the places I was going to be doing it in. You know, I was never planning on killing myself on the bike to the point where I finished the day and I just collapse. It was all a very fine balance. You know, like I was working with some of the world's leading sports scientists, sports nutritionists, and no one knew whether this would be humanly possible, physiologically, let alone like financially or logistically. You know, like after a 13,000 kilometer triathlon, would the human body then be able to climb Mount Everest? And it was the question, luckily, I answered, but it was like just so mad. Like I lost 18 kilo, nearly 17, nearly 4 stone, and absolutely in pieces by the time like I got there.
What was you doing for like particularly on the cycling? I know you mentioned you were doing it to the point of total fatigue. Yeah. What was the fueling strategy?
So if you again, it was literally we were sleeping each night for 4 months now. It was four and a half months of like cycling nearly every day, 140k a day, 150k a day. So it was just eat as much as you can whenever you can. Yeah. Honestly, like 56 days in India alone, and it's tough to eat. Like food that's not going to mess you up there. You know what I mean? All the time. Incredible place. Like, but it's just like some countries had some big challenges because it would just be a case of eat as much as you can, as often as you can, and then Stan, my amazing cameraman who'd done alongside me, he would obviously in the car in that. He'd basically just go and find some food, meet me at the halfway point, maybe at 90k down the road, and just meet me with whatever, I don't know what it is, but it would be as calorific as he could find, and I'd just off my face, and then just carry on, and it was kind of just rinse and repeat, and just hope and pray that I'd make it to Everest without being completely emaciated, without being completely run down, so I put on as much weight as I could before I left. I was 95 kilo when I swam the channel, and I was 78 when I summited Everest.
Wow.
So managed to just about keep it off, but I probably was in about a 2,000 calorie deficit at least for nearly 7 months straight by the time I got to Everest. And just eating, so I couldn't eat. Same as the Atlantic, same as in America. Again, all these tests with my body, I know roughly how much I'll lose when it comes to consuming, calorie deficit and all that. I kind of roughly knew how much I'd lose, but this was even more so because I'm less in control of what I can eat and stuff. So it was just a beautiful mystery. It's incredible.
Yeah. So with you kind of knowing, have you got yourself with the sports science element behind it? Have you got the intricacies of yourself down to a T now? Or
not really. I still very much winged it.
So you winged it.
Honestly, I still very much winged it. I definitely didn't do as much. I went to Loughborough University twice. I think that was it before leading up to it, just to get some data and to get an idea of kind of power output and what I should be doing each day. But you can't plan really for this.
Well, not when you're
kind
crossing
of
so many countries.
You can get an idea of what's going to help you and how much you should be eating and what you should be eating, and a lot of the science behind it. But a lot of it, though, you just have to, as we say, military, genuinely, you just have to improvise, adapt, and overcome. Yeah. And that was what it was for 240 days.
Because Ross Edgley, I'm sure you're familiar with. He swam round here, so he obviously he's dialed in with the sports science, isn't he?
Yeah, I wish I was on the same level as him in terms of knowledge. He's incredible.
But he's got a full funded team with him. Yeah. Not by no means am I undermining what he's done when I say this, but making the comparisons to yourself is he's got a large amount of money, corporate sponsorships. He's going to be able to afford to have the relevant foods, particularly when he was doing the swim round the Great Britain. Obviously, you didn't really, because you approached it from a, like you said, completely winging it approach.
Yeah, had nothing. Yeah, so it was tough. I hope one day I can be in a position Ross is, and it'd be amazing to have such a great team around you. You feel invincible. It would be so good.
I wouldn't rule that out, Mitch, because you've developed a good following now, and obviously now, which we'll touch on as the conversation goes on. You're doing talks and you're doing podcasts, and obviously your face is going to be out there more, so hopefully that'll lead to
never expected it.
More opportunities.
It's kind of a weird side product, but it's become like a massive motivation for me now, not even caring about that, but then having so many people, young people especially, message me along the way telling me I've just signed up for my first marathon because of this, because of watching the YouTube or whatever, so watching me and Stan have done, and it was just so amazing, oh my god, the future is, everyone asks, well, I won't say that yet because you'll probably ask the question next, so I'll leave that there.
Yeah, no, I know what you're alluding to. I know I'm guilty of it and suffering with a bit of imposter syndrome.
Oh, mate.
Because if this was somebody else that had done this challenge, you would think, like with Ross Edgley, he's a legend, he's great, this, that and the other. I know it's probably hard to realise what you've done is, and I'm going to swear now, so we'll have to censor this out, insane. It really is.
Thanks,
when you break it down and unpack it truly is. And the fact that you did it on just a pure belief system, minimalistic money, and went with that mindset of we can do this, just makes it all the more
mate, and I appreciate
enduring.
That.
It really does.
I'm still in that. That's why one of the chapters in the upcoming book is called The Relentless Pursuit of Positivity.
Yeah,
that's one of the slides of my talk. It's about having that relentless attitude and mindset, and how it can get you through anything. I'm still massively I'm not processing it, I'm in the biggest come down of my life. I am my adrenaline and my body's in tatters. Not basically physically, but hormonally and everything is just crashed. And it's I've still not processed it at all. And I still people say it's incredible. I'm still a bit because a lot of it is genuinely, I believe, the most of it, anyone can do it, and that's kind of the whole point. Not special. I'm genuinely not special. You can just swim across the channel tomorrow, but anyone, you could jump on a bike tomorrow and cycle across the world, no problem. you could learn the skills to climb Everest in half a day. Realistically, it's just being confident and having the few technical skills you need. You know, anyone can do it. I mean, I appreciate I had the kind of drive to go and make it happen, but it's imposter syndrome is something that I get every day.
Yeah, I can imagine chatting to you, because you can tell you've not processed it. I mean, that's what I was going to ask you next, because when I did those 10 marathons for like a week or two, I was all over the place. I didn't, because I was adjusting, trying to acclimatise to normality. I suspect 8 months of doing something like that, where you've just said there, you've not fully come back down to earth.
No,
yet,
I mean, I remember. I mean, it took me literally the channel swim was the hardest day of my life by far. 18 and a half hours of just non-stop swimming, and it took me 3 months, 2 months at least, nearly 3 months, because I was in Iraq. I remember I was in Iraq, but by the time it hit me, like I hadn't even began to process that swim, what I'd done, what I'd gone through, until I was in Iraq. I'd already cycled 7 countries before I started to think about what it kind of the effect that had had, and kind of before I broke it down in my head, you know. So and since I've got back, it's just been non-stop, just not stopped. So it's just
I suppose maybe that's a good thing with ADHD. You want to be blessed to be busy, as they say.
Yeah, exactly. But it's just hard. It's just hard to keep balance. So yeah.
So just picking out what you said there, because I mean I've only ever done open water swimming, like as a normal standardised triathlon. I've always piqued my interest of doing the channel, but it's not got to the point of I want to do that yet. You just mentioned that was one of the hardest things you'd done.
Yeah, definitely. I knew it would be as well.
So, well, do you know what? Everyone who I know who's done the channel say the same thing. How did that compare to the other stuff that you'd done?
Beforehand and stuff, or just
just everything you've done.
I mean, it was what I expected. I was quite unlucky that it was kind of the worst weather they had the entire season. So, but that I do see as a blessing, because honestly, like that, I was about 5 hours longer than what it was predicted to take, because it was just absolutely smashing it with the weather. You know, 13 boats left England on that day, and only my friend, who's a much quicker swimmer than me, made it. But he made it 6 hours. He made it in 12 hours. So before the weather came in, so every other boat in that time turned around. We were the only people that pushed through the massive swell. It was to the point where the boats wouldn't have even left England if it was like that when we set off. I was just trying not to drown for the last 6 hours. It was brutal.
Because it was quite razor thin for you to get before they pulled the plug.
They tried to pull the plug many times, but my coach, who's a legend, Niels, just kept on saying to him, like, no, he's not going to give up. Like, he's not going to give up. I was swimming one-handed. All my wrists were swollen with tendonitis. My right shoulder was seized. I'd inhaled and aspirated so much water I could hardly breathe. The last 6 hours, good 5 hours, was just kind of just trying to stay alive. It wasn't swimming, you know. And when I got to that beach, I was just gone. I just collapsed, and I've never been like that in my life. But I'm so thankful for that, because as with anything in life, genuinely, like, people go out and make yourself, make yourself uncomfortable, because the next time you do something, you'll look back on that moment and be like, I got through that. I can get through this. If I can get through that day, I can get through anything. You know what I mean? So I compared every day after that on the entire expedition to that day when I was having a really tough day on a bike in the Turkish mountains in -6. You know, after 4,000 I was like, nothing compares to that swim. When I was on Everest, literally like 400 meters from the summit, and I've nearly got frostbite, and it was like, all my mask was freezing up. All I thought back was, this isn't as bad as a swim. So it helped me.
So it
genuinely helped me. If I'd had a really smooth crossing, really smooth swim, I would have been able to start the bike slightly quicker, rather than having to be bedbound for 6 days and not able to move. But I wouldn't have had the benefit of just knowing how far I can actually go. So it was amazing.
I'm going to give a nod. I mean, obviously everything will be tagged in the comments anyway, and we'll do it at the end as well. But people who haven't seen the journey of Mitch's, go check it out, because it really is. I think the first episode you're doing the channel anyway, aren't you?
We're very lucky, very lucky. At the last minute, I had Stan and Molly come on, my amazing team. You know, it was going to be completely solo, but I mean, please check it out. The entire thing was professionally filmed.
Yeah, and it really is.
Guy.
Yeah, it's unreal.
Every day from day 1 on the channel to day 237 on the summit of Everest has all been shot. I mean, past base camp, it was all action cams and like videos.
Well, yeah, but I mean, there's the logistics behind that, obviously.
We're so lucky to have such great footage and stuff. So yeah, the whole story's there. Every struggle, every high, every low, every country. Yeah, it's all there.
Because I mean, as well as the feat of the physicality of it all, obviously we've touched on the logistics, but there was numerous barriers, and I suppose that it reminded me of Russ Cook, who when he ran across Africa, in the sense of because you'd gone through multiple countries, particularly the more out of Europe you get. These implications they have, because you tried to go through Iran, didn't you? At one point,
Iran originally, and like, we shouldn't have told them we were cycling. We may have got away with it, but regardless, it's a very crazy place at the moment to go if you're like British or American. You know, getting in's okay, but getting out's the problem. You know, like 2 weeks after we decided not to continue to try to go around through Iran, but our visas were rejected anyway. But a couple just bike packing on motorbikes got arrested. They're still there being held on espionage charges. So it's crazy. So yeah, it was really tough. And that was the first big annoying hurdle when we had to completely divert our route down the Middle East, which was mad, but which annoyingly meant we had to make a crossing across the Persian Gulf. But it is what it is. You adapt, and that's what we did.
Yeah, and obviously I don't want to kind of spoil alert too much, but a lot of these countries that the Western media would have you believe are, you go in there and you're basically dead.
Yeah,
couldn't be further from the truth.
No. Like, I'll tell everyone listening to this, 99.9% of what you think you know is bollocks.
Yeah.
I'll tell you now, like, and this is not me just saying this, by far the friendliest country in terms of everyone asks me what's their favourite country, and that, you know, my favourite country by far for people and safety, a feeling of safety, was Iraq, definitely, closely followed by Pakistan. Food was in Pakistan as well, but people, Iraq, Pakistan, and Oman. So basically in the Middle East, it's just incredible, you know.
And it's refreshing to see that from someone who's done a challenge like this on the ground, that sort of debunks a lot of the stuff that you're told hearsay. Sometimes you need a pioneer like yourself to go out and do that and break the status quo, as it were. In terms of, so obviously we've kind of touched on the cycling and the running element. I want to unpack that a little bit, because obviously I've mentioned it a few times now. I did 10 marathons, but you not being a runner, how did you adapt to that?
Just I knew it would just be adapt on the ground. Like I said, like there was no point me doing any training for running, zero, before I left, because obviously after 4.5 months of cycling every day, your body's going to be completely conditioned to cycling, just for cycling. Obviously running and cycling are completely different sports in every way, muscular, joint, you know, everything. So I was like, there's no point. So I always knew like the most painful part, well, apart from the channel, which ended up being more painful than I could have ever dreamed, but I always knew the most painful part of the entire expedition by far was going to be transitioning from a 4.5 month, 12,000 kilometre bike ride, pretty much 2 days straight into a 900k ultra marathon without having not ran a single mile in 6 months for training, you know. And it was as bad as I feared. You know, I've had 2 knee surgeries. I was just, the first week I was on the strongest painkillers you can imagine, limping for half the day, like in tears literally, and still managing to hit them, still managing to do my 35k a day that I needed.
So that's what you was doing,
I started at
35,
33k and then somehow brought it up to like 37k. Done 3 marathons towards the end of it, but I got that. I hit the target I needed to get there in plenty of time. But the first,
see, that's nuts, because obviously I'm just putting a scant like me runner cap on here. Is the fact that you're doing that kind of distance. I know you're not breaking records with it, but exactly. I mean, in your defence, you have just cycled God knows how much. So you know it's. But the fact that you're clocking in 35 marathon, that's with no training essentially. That is so incredible.
But again, I never doubted my mind. I didn't doubt my body necessarily, but I knew running is different to cycling. It is an impact, you know, and it was, my knee was completely swollen up completely. I couldn't bend, I couldn't grab my feet, you know, behind you. I couldn't do a quad stretch. It was that bad. Like I couldn't kneel down, and for the first week, but then I just got through that gap and just blocked out everything. Used all of the lessons which I talk about and which will be in the book, and I just managed to just drive through it, and 877k later, crawled into Kathmandu. Nah, by then it was feeling better. By then I was alive.
It's amazing.
I felt alive.
The human body, like it's that age old saying, what the mind believes the body achieves, and obviously with what you've done is testament to that. In you know, that pain only being temporary sort of scenario. And because I mean, I when I was doing mine, I torn 2 ligaments. I didn't get that checked out till after I'd done it, because I thought I don't want to know what's up with me, because then that's going to play me. And then they said, you know, you've torn 2 ligaments. But it just showcases that with that right mindset, and obviously by that point you were all in, weren't you? Because you knew Everest was in touching distance. When did you get to that point where you knew you could do it?
Pretty much after that run, because only if I had, I never doubted myself and my belief. The only if I had was, would my body physically, actually, with my legs, with my knee, physically hold out after that. And because that's the only thing I hadn't really tested. As I said, I'd done the swimming training, a lot of it. I'd done cycling across the United States and some bits of Europe, other trips I've done. But I'd never actually done I've never done an ultra marathon before that. I've done 2 marathons one marathon in my life before. No, 2 marathons in my life before that. That was it. You know, that's the longest I'd ran in one go, is in one day or consecutive. I've never ran consecutive days before. So I knew it was going to be like, So I knew if I made it to Kathmandu, if I made it to the end of the run, because after the 877k run, I then had 365k of hiking. But I knew if my legs would make it through that, because I knew in my head I'd make it, as in I'd make the hike. So it was kind of like when I got to Kathmandu, in my head I was like, right, I'm going to get to Everest now. Like, I'm going to get there. Like, 100% I'm going to get there. Now all I need is the gods to be on my side. And, you know, that's the other scary thing. It could have all been over because of bad winds or whatever. So so it was when I got to Kathmandu, it was just like such a relief. Like, and it was the best welcome I ever had. And we had a bit of time there to reset, get everything ready before we set off. Obviously from the same spot for the hike, the base camp from there. Because
by that point you'd gained the followers, the social and everything, because they jumped on your journey. We'll bookmark Everest because I want to unpack that with you. But one of the other things I want to touch on is obviously one of the charities you did it for, but also giving a nod to the docu-series, let's say. It's as well as you fully embracing the culture, your love of animals and wildlife is very, very apparent. And your dog, Buddy, is it? Yeah. That's great for the first few episodes.
It's worth saying, like, the Buddy, my golden retriever, obviously joined me for the first 2,000k for like a lot of that journey. I pulled him in a doggy trailer, on a bicycle, and he'd be going behind me on the bike, and or let him off now and again, and he'd have a nice run. All the way the first 6 countries I had my golden retriever with me, but then I had to let him go because it was. When we got past like Eastern Europe, it was just insane. I mean, I've been chased by, no exaggeration, I've been probably chased by 300 dogs, nearly bitten this close hundreds of times. It was just not a place to have him. That was
because it's actually quite an emotional part, that, where you have to let Buddy go. Yeah, it was.
Knowing it would be 6 months of like. 6 months of like, what's next? 6 months until I saw him again. It was, it was nerve-wracking. I missed him straight away. I was like, God.
Well, you've got that bond, haven't you? Man's best friend.
Yeah.
And then obviously the charity that you raise money for and can still raise money. The page is still live.
I'm going to keep it open until Christmas for sure. I mean, it's mad. I've always been a massive animal lover through and through. I studied zoology, and before I was in the Marines, I worked with animals all the time. So to find this little charity called SavSim. So they made a mental health course using wildlife and nature to treat people with PTSD and stuff like that. So working out of London Zoo, Whipsnade Zoo, they made a course called the Warriors of Hope course, which is amazing. And they also send people to Africa and places like that to help train like the rangers in anti-poaching. So it's actively saving wildlife whilst actively saving lives. It's amazing. And just randomly came across them just before cycling across the United States, and it combined with all that love. So that's why the other aspect of this 13,000k triathlon was also for me like, let's make this into like kind of like the maddest wildlife documentary of all time. So I stopped off as not as many as I would have liked, but as many wildlife sanctuaries, wildlife rehabilitation centres, anywhere we could that was en route, no matter how buggered I was, to make a video and to talk about what they do and to make some exposure. So the first place we stopped was as early as Austria, in Europe's largest bird of prey rescue sanctuary, where they rehabilitate birds and bearded vultures specifically. And then when we got to Bulgaria, there was a dancing bear sanctuary, so where all the bears within the whole Eastern Europe, basically, where all the bears that have been abused come and live peacefully. It's a beautiful place. So that was amazing to go and see that. And then next one was in Iraq, so it was incredible. The guy that helped us get into Iraq, by coincidence, it was his story's incredible. You watch the YouTube. Like, this guy was shot by ISIS, and a donkey saved his life. Basically, a donkey carried him into Turkey and saved his life. It was incredible. But anyway, he owns the only animal rights organisation in the whole of Iraq. So we spent time with him, and we went to release foxes and porcupines and stuff. And as we were going through, and then when I got to India, we went to kind of one of the biggest kind of elephant rehabilitation centres, elephants that have been ridden on and rode a lot, abused, circus, street elephants, where they come to live out their life in peace, basically. So we even went, and then we got to Nepal. We went to one of their national parks, their newest national park, to do some work with them, their anti-poaching patrols, working with the army and all that. So it was, so at least 5 separate times throughout this whole expedition, I managed to kind of also plug in my passion for wildlife. So I want to carry that forward in everything that I do in the future as well.
Yeah, it really is as well as the physical aspect. It really is the ultimate adventure. What you went on, isn't it?
It was great.
In terms of, you're covering all the fitness, the mindset, your passion, your vocation, your love for animals, just everything combined. And that's why I encourage people to watch the episode. Not the episode, sorry, the docu-series. What would you call it?
YouTube series, I guess.
YouTube series.
Yeah.
Okay, coming back to Everest. So I did Everest Base Camp back in 2018. I did Kilimanjaro. I found a lot harder. I really like Base Camp in terms of, because you're seeing all the scenic stuff before you get to the stuff you get to. And I definitely recommend anyone who's considering anything like that, give Base Camp a go. So once you get to Base Camp, what's kind of next in terms of how you acclimatise and adjust before? So
as soon as we got there, I was really lucky because I had a whole team of legends join me just from the social media. So I had a great team of people come with me to base camp. So as soon as we got to base camp, we turned right around and came back to climb Le Boucher East, which is a 6,000. You would have walked past it, a 6,100 metre mountain. You would have slept in the village below it. Yeah. And so we immediately came back to climb that as the first rotation, the first acclimatisation rotation. So it's about the same height as Camp 1 on Mount Everest. So we've done that and then came back, went back to base camp. And the whole process is about 3 or 4 weeks. You know, you wait around. We did lots of training on the glaciers, ice climbing, abseiling, crossing the ladders, all that amazing stuff. So you do loads of training in there.
I have to ask you about the ladders, because
ladders.
I think I'd get onset vertigo if I was going over them, I think.
Some of them are dodgy, but we were really lucky this year. It was actually one of the least dodgiest years. Okay. There was still like 4 ladders connected together across a 300-foot crevasse, and there were still ones where you had to there was some without even ladders, some you had to just do a run up and jump over. Oh. So it was dodgy, but yeah, after the rotation 1, you come back, you do that training, you then we then went all the way up to camp just below Camp 3, in between Camp 2 and Camp 3, and then you come back down again. That's like a 4-day, 5-day process. 4-day process, and then you come back, and then it's kind of right. That's it. So you just wait until the perfect window to go back up, and then you go from there. And it all comes down to that moment, and that's so we left, and that's when it began.
Was there at any points you thought you could potentially die at Everest?
Every moment, yeah. Every single, like, the last thing Stan said to me was, realise, like, this time tomorrow you could be dead. There's a very good chance you could be dead. But I just, honestly, I don't even process that. I'd come closer to death by far on the bike ride than I ever did on Everest. I was run off the road by trucks, chased by dogs in front of lorries that had to swerve to miss me, knocked off my car, knocked off my bike in Iraq, in Baghdad, nearly been killed by 1,000 tuk-tuks and cows in India. Like, honestly, the amount of near misses I'd had by then, and even now, it's like, it's the same as crossing the road. Or getting, crossing the road here in London. It's, you've got to take the risks to get the rewards. Life's too short. And that was my kind of, so yeah, of course I could, but I've done everything I can. Got an amazing team, train my ass off. Nah, I didn't even think about it.
Yeah, and I think by that point as well, with everything you'd gone through, and again, referring back to nothing's going to be as tough as the swim.
Exactly.
I think death's kind of a non-entity at that point, even though it's there. It's
exactly.
You just got to channel that out.
Yeah, it helps. I mean, of course it helps. Your morality is it's important, But yeah, you got to be willing to take the risks to get the rewards. That's the way I always looked at it.
What was your experience like in the death zone? Did you kind of feel it, or?
I mean, yeah, obviously I didn't do it without oxygen, because anyone doing their first 8,000 meter peak without oxygen is just stupid. Would be stupid. You're just risking people's lives. But yeah, it was. I mean, it was quite. I was so lucky because there was no one there. We were the first people to climb Everest the entire year, and so when we got to Camp 4, there was like 2 people. That's it in the entire camp, and it was just quiet, and wind was blowing quite hard, but it was a beautiful view of the summit, and it was just so nervous. You know, there was just so many nerves going racking around me. But yeah, it was a long day to get there, and then you only had a few hours at Camp 4 before then going to the summit. So it was just wrapped in just nervousness, mate, and trying to eat a bit of food, and it was just scary. Yeah, it was scary.
What's your, well, I suppose I should have asked you this for the whole duration, but specifically with Everest, what was your sleeping like, if even existence?
Oh, overall, I was quite lucky. I mean, overall, not too bad. Even like Camp 2, Camp 3 on Everest, I'd get quite a good few hours, right up until, I didn't sleep at Camp 4, that's for sure. But even at Camp 3, I think I got a bit of sleep as well, but not much, probably an hour or 2. So you kind
was
of
that just pass out from exhaustion,
yeah,
kind of sleep?
Yeah, like more that. Yeah. It was it's tough, and it's obviously tough sleeping with a respirator on as well. So
there's that element.
Much.
So I mean, obviously, I know it's hard to break this down, but maybe you have got an answer for it. The day you're at the summit, obviously euphoria's hit you, you've done it, you've completed Project Limitless. Talk us through that moment, Mitch.
I mean, well, you say it then, the project was not completed until base camp. You know, the summit's not the finish line. You know, that was very.
And did you know that in your head at the
absolutely,
time? Okay.
You know, like the reason why most people die on Everest is because they get complacent. Any hill, doesn't matter if you're climbing Snowdon or whatever. That's halfway. You've not made it to the top. The top is at the bottom. If that makes sense.
No, it does.
Even officially, you haven't climbed Everest until you got back down to camp.
So they wouldn't list it as a.
No. So I know people who have summited, got back down to all the way back down to Camp 2, and had to be helicoptered out, and then they don't get a certificate. They haven't officially climbed Everest.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And but that's not the reason, because I don't care about that. You know. Of
course.
In my mind, if you've done that, it's come on. But like in terms of safety, you cannot become complacent. You can't stop concentrating until 75% of deaths occur. Literally 75, 3/4 of deaths occur, honestly, on the way down, and that is the truest thing in the world. So when I got to the top, it was a weird feeling, because I was absolutely everything I ever dreamed of. I came up and the sun was rising, and the whole world was lit up.
That's the best view you've ever seen.
And a view, there was no one on the Hillary Step, no one. Wow. And that never, I'm probably within the 1% of people in history that have actually seen that view, and it was just great. Wind was howling though, literally within 50 meters towards the top. I had to step over 2 bodies, and that really reminded me, literally still mask on, still boots on, probably from a couple of years ago, but I had to literally step around these 2 bodies, and that just really reminded me, you're not done yet, boy. You made a promise. I made a promise to my family, I'm going to come back alive. I'm coming back alive. So I got what I needed to get done up there, and enjoyed the moment, had a good cry, and then just took a deep breath and just got back to work. But when I got back to base camp, it was still in that pure disbelief. It was just like, I've done it, it was it was, I'm still figuring it out. So
still not called that now.
Still figuring it out.
Did you have, because I often hear tales from people directly, or from what I've seen, where people sort of use it when they're at even though they know they've got to get back to base camp, and they see that beautiful view, what you've mentioned, the 1%, either have sort of time stand still, or they have a version of an out-of-body experience type thing, as though, did that happen to you at all? Did you?
When I got back to base camp, I had an out-of-body experience.
Okay.
A little bit. I had that out-of-body experience for me. I mean, but not completely related. Was between halfway on the climb from Camp 4. So between the balcony and the top, I felt like I was about to get frostbite, and I literally had zoned out. I had an out-of-body experience basically, where I completely detached from reality, and just kept on repeating a word over and over to myself for 4 hours. 2 words. So Gelji, who's my brother Sherpa, the one who took me up, absolute legend. So I kept on saying Gelji, oxygen, Gelji, oxygen. I repeated that word for 5 hours. I thought, and all I said to myself was, if I repeat these 2 words, I'm not going to die. And I knew that, and I just kept on repeating them words, and it was really weird. I genuinely disconnected from my body. It was really weird. Just kept on just 1 foot at a time, and that was the toughest part. And it was just mad, because it was after that I kind of literally, it's as if I came back in. I looked up, and we were at the South Summit, and that was when the entire world just lit up below us. I hadn't even realised the sun was rising, and it was incredible. That's kind of when I had that moment of just complete disconnection. I think it happened in the channel as well.
for a different reason, I'm sure.
Longer. Yeah.
So you've completed Project Limitless, and I mean, obviously, I know you're still trying to come back down to earth and decompartmentalise what's gone on, but where does one go from here? Like, because you've literally stood on top of the world and you've done it in style.
No.
What does Mitch Hutchcraft do next?
Everyone, that's the question. But I'm genuinely this was never about records or doing something massive. I didn't even know this was world record breaking until a year after I'd planned it. Until my friend said to me, "You realise this is big," and it was to help money for the charity in that. And so I was like, "Yeah, let's scream about this." So for me, it's not about bettering it, I've got amazing plans coming, another world record next year, mountains involved and stuff. I've just signed a book deal this week, so getting the book written first is my first goal. But honestly, it's genuinely the idea of spreading the message that I want to spread to give people, young people especially with the book and that, and the talks, is about the positivity and how it can get you through anything, and you are in charge of your own possible, and you can channel power, grief into power, all this stuff. That's one of my main aims. Is everyone says, what's next is just talking to people and doing this, and then whatever comes next is amazing. I want to start my own foundation, where basically kind of similar to what the charity I do now. So I'm going to create a mental health adventure retreat for anyone that needs it for free to come, and I take them out on adventures, mini adventures, no matter where it is. So that excites me as much as another world record, you know what I mean? Being able to take people away and do all this. So there's lots coming, like Limitless Adventures, as well as the foundation and the book. So just focusing on all that for the next 6 months, and then get back to getting out there properly. 100%. There's some big things on the horizon.
Can you give any spoilers to that? Or watch this
other mountains, including the poles as well, as coming.
Right.
Other world records which include mountains, include both the North and South Pole, with lots of special guests and that.
Okay, cool.
So that'll be good fun.
Yeah, I'll look forward to that.
Yeah, it'll be awesome.
And have you got any dates for the book? Yeah.
Yes. So kind of finished before Christmas, and then May, kind of June, so around Father's Day, because for me, my dad's a big catalyst, one of the main inspirations for all of it. So we think around then there'll be a great time. So hopefully you'll see it around May and June. So May/June, that's when it'll be released.
Well, you're always welcome back on here for PR or anything around the book, mate.
Please,
no problem at all.
Yeah, I'll see you back again. There'll be a big push.
What's sort of the final sort of bow-up question, if you will? What would be I know you get messages all the time from people, so let's say it's one of those people who's in your DMs or emails, and they want to challenge themselves in whatever that may be. What would be, you speak to that camera, what would be your message to them, Mitch?
Very simple. Like I said at the start, you define your own possible, and it doesn't matter whether you've never joined the gym before, you've never done a run. Go out there and just do it, because taking that first tiny uncomfortable step is most of the hard work. Once you do it, you'll want to do it again. And the other reason why I want you to do it, for me as well, is the reason I do these big things. It's not because they're big, it's because they allow me to unlock the happiness and see magic in the small things. So if you push yourself and you go outside and you just go swimming in the lake for the first time, or you go camping for the first time and you've never been camping, I promise you, when you get home the next day and you have that shower or that cup of tea, it will taste better than it ever has in your life. So getting comfortable, being uncomfortable and pushing yourself will allow you to see the magic in the small things, and that is happiness, and that will make you happy for the rest of your life.
Also, I feel like booking the English Channel swim now myself. I've listened to that.
Mate. That was enough uncomfortable on this to make me happy forever. But genuinely, it sticks with you. You know, you do that to an extreme level. I think that's one of the reasons why I'm addicted to it, and I love it because you just see the world in a different light. You can when you can take happiness from a cold can of Coke compared to someone else, your whole life you've just taken it for granted. Having the comfy bed, you've taken that for granted your whole life because that's all you do. Go out and get uncomfortable, and then you're going to be your level of happiness. I think that's what defines happiness, is being able to see the magic in everyday things rather than hardly anything. So yeah,
obviously coming from someone who's lived and breathed it, it's
exactly.
very poignant.
What it's like.
Obviously, we're going to link everything in, but how can people get in touch with you, whether it's bookings or just reaching out?
Yeah, no, everything's the best just through probably just DMing, directly messaging on the, you've never got a good team now, directly messaging on the social media. So just DM on Instagram, just search Mitch Hutch, MITCH, HUTCH. Was underscore Mitch Hutch really, but just search Mitch Hutch, you can't spell it wrong, and it will come up. The link to the charity is still on the bio, all the information's there, the entire journey, link to the YouTube series, everything. Just search Mitch Hutch on Instagram.
Or you can check the description, we'll have everything on that anyway, the charity, the YouTube, Mitch's website and social media handles as well.
Cheers,
but
guys.
it's good to hear it from you, Mitch.
Mate,
I've enjoyed
awesome.
meeting you.
Thank you,
Been
brother.
you're an inspiration, mate.
I'm
You
glad.
genuinely are.
Thanks for having me, mate.
I mean that. I know you've got imposter syndrome, but
Aye.
no,
Cheers,
as someone who does a lot of endurance stuff, I think what you've done's epic, mate.
Thanks,
and
buddy.
the energy you radiate off you, you're exactly the same person in person as you
great.
are on
Yeah,
YouTube.
that means a lot. That means a lot.
So there's no fluff with you at all.
Yes.
But no, have you had a good time?
Oh, mate, amazing. Cheers for that. Yeah. I was 10 minutes late. Sorry, everyone.
It's
but,
all
yeah.
right. We'll let
They
him
won't
off.
know that. No one will know that. I hate living in London. Let's say that for now. I'm a country boy adjusting to city life. So, well, I say that I'm actually buying a camper van in 2 weeks and then traveling around. And then that's my home for the next year. I was writing a book.
Oh, awesome. Yeah.
We're going to get a camper van and just park up anywhere we want and just write a book. Be nomads. That
sounds like
life.
absolute bliss to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of busy places now. I had to mentally prepare myself on the train coming down here from. I live on the outskirts of Liverpool, so it's a little town. It's not as bad. St Helens. It's called.
St Helens. Yeah, I've been out in St Helens.
Have you?
I've
Yeah?
been out. My best mate, one of my best mates from the Marines, is there.
Oh right, okay.
Michael Jordan. St Helens. I can't remember the name of the bar, but yeah, it's an interesting place, isn't it?
Very interesting. It's
Very
probably
interesting.
deteriorated a lot more since you went.
Yeah.
I won't slag off my hometown.
We love you, St Helens.
I've been Daniel Hodges. This has, of course, been the incredible Mitch Hutchcraft, and you've been listening to the Hodge-Cast. Take it easy. Thanks for listening. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and we believe you can definitely take something away from today's guest. We couldn't attract guests such as this without a solid fan base. The best way we can grow this is through subscriptions. So, if you haven't already done so, can I please ask you hit that subscribe button and help us continue to put out content for you all to enjoy. Until next time.